Hello, ladies. So, we have to have a conversation here. I like these things. This is not going to be a short one because we need to get into the nuisance, but I really wanted to share it. So, I just seen a post which I actually put on my stories by the glucose goddess, and once again, I am so frustrated with her. She's basically promoting her supplements. Now, if you want to reverse type 2 diabetes or if you want to control your blood glucose, the most important thing is one, because all the common denominator from to all diabetes that is out there is insulin resistance, even in type 1. Now, of course, in type 1, there's the autoimmune part where your beta cells get killed by the immune system, so you're not actually able to make insulin, which is why type 1 diabetes is dependent on insulin shots. But you can still become more insulin sensitive by having the right diet. And no, one supplement won't do it for you. And this idea that we have to add one supplement just because it's well studied and proven to help with blood glucose doesn't really help. Cinnamon, chromium, they do help with blood glucose too, but you still have to have a proper diet. You cannot eat Twinkies and then have cinnamon and chromium and think it's going to be okay. That's not going to work. What you have to do is have the right food, which is plants and good plants actually. I know you can go the keto way. Like, I know people do like, okay, let's just take away the starches, take away the carbs, and we also have to talk about what carbs are, and then we can just manage our glucose. And yes, your glucose levels will be lower if you're not eating carbohydrates. And you say on a plant on meat and fat, yes, that can work, absolutely. But you're not becoming or training your body to become insulin sensitive. What you're doing here is actually just taking away the food that your body needs to learn how to manage the spikes, if you want to call it. Spikes are normal, by the way. When you eat carbohydrates, your body gets a signal that it's time to bring that glucose into the cell. To do that, you have to have a rise so that the insulin from the pancreas is actually shared or released into the blood so that the insulin can carry the glucose molecules into the cells. And open the door, right? Because there are receptors on each cell, they open up and you get in. And then the mitochondria can use the glucose to make ATP, energy, yay! So very, very perfect way that the body works. Glucose is our favorite way of getting energy. Yes, we can use fats for that too. And again, you can go into a ketogenic approach, but without having your fiber, which is not found in animal products, and high fat diets. Well, in high fats, it depends. Of course, you can get fiber from nuts and seeds, but again, high fats also have their own issues. And so we need fiber from different things. Now, when it comes to carbohydrates, what are they? Well, carbohydrates basically are your fruit, your vegetable, your pulses, your grains. But not every carb is the same. There are some carbohydrates from these groups that are less starchy and then more starchy. The starchy ones you might be familiar with are the grains, of course, and then your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, so the more like root veggies, and they all play an amazing role into our health. I'm really explaining this in layman terms so that even a child can understand. And we need them. Now, of course, when it comes to our hormonal patterns, there are some times in the month that we want to keep starches a little bit lower, not to raise glucose too much because estrogen doesn't like high glucose. But that time of the month where you want to support progesterone, that's when you bring in the quinoa, you bring in the rice, you bring in the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, you name it. What also classifies as carbohydrates? Well, your cakes and your Twinkies that I mentioned. So your sweets and all that stuff, yeah, sugar, plain sugar, table sugar, carbohydrate. But the way that they act in the body versus having the whole foods that I just mentioned are very different. So we're trying to get away from these pre-packaged things. And of course, I'm not talking about cakes you make at home. I'm not talking about, if you're making a brownie at home and you use ingredients like, some of you I know that bake wonderfully and they make food with like dates to sweeten instead of sugar, and which by the way have a lot of fiber, so kudos. Or buckwheat flour. Of course, those are ingredients that are great together, and yeah, you put them together and you create something amazing and awesome. I'm talking about food that comes, the general ones, of course, that you can make at home very unhealthily, like with a lot of butter, a lot of eggs, and a lot of, you name it. But you also can, the ones you buy in the stores, the cakes and the cookies and all the stuff that is really, really hyper processed and full of fats. And by the way, fats and sugar together, that's another combination we have to talk about. Because of course, your body will want to use the glucose as much as possible. If you have too much, you can't use it all, you have to store it. But also the fat is not going to be used right away, it's going to go into storage for the rainy days. So we have to talk about these things. And we have to understand biochemistry of the body. The body is complicated because there are nuisances for everything. But really, if you think about it, it's also very simple because our body is smart and will do things methodically. So if something is in our body and our body knows how to use it, perfect, it will use it. If it's too much, and it could also be too much of a good thing, it will have to store it. But honestly, you have to have so many calories per day to store 1 gram of fat that, and on a plant-based diet where you can eat an abundance of food, and I'm talking about tons. I mean, people have seen me eat and they can't believe it. You don't store it. Everybody asks me, where do you put it? When I go to like a buffet restaurant with my friends, even with my colleagues from the conference, they're just like, I had Dr. Knight, Professor Knight, that was at dinner, and he was having a non-alcoholic beer, and he was like, let me smell this because I'm seeing double. Like, how is it possible? I had 4 plates of veggies. Yes, a lot of it is salad, so of course I don't eat I actually don't eat grains except when I'm in my luteal phase, which right now I don't even know when it is because unfortunately I'm suffering from amenorrhea still because of the stress levels that I've been going through. But we're going to try and fix this. We are trying to fix this. And but I'm following my calendar anyway. So this week, for example, more starches. So more bananas, more mangoes, more quinoa, more buckwheat, more sweet potatoes, which I love. And right now it's the season for the purple sweet potatoes, so I'm on board. So many wonderful things you can make. I already have a great recipe I'm going to try tomorrow, and I'll share it. So you have to think about these things, like this broad spectrum of things that you eat. And so a carb is not a carb, a fat is not a fat. Again, butter is going to act very, very different to your body than an avocado. I am not a fan of oil. There are benefits in olive oil, of course. Vegetable oils, scientifically, they are not poisoning you. So if somebody says that, please turn away from it. The research doesn't show that they're poisoning you, but they are extra calories. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 120 calories. Do you need them? Probably not. So I personally rather go to the whole fats. So I'm talking about the nuts and the seeds, nut butters, the avocados, and stay away from the oils because oils are really easy. And I grew up in an Italian family where olive oil is like blah, 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 blah. You probably even put it on yourself as an anointment. So I truly think that there are basic things to do. Also, I reverse type 2 diabetes by cutting out the oils and also diminishing my fats and having a lot of fruit and veggies. So high carb diet, low fat. So there are those things to talk about. So when you see somebody like the glucose goddess going on about the spikes are normal. What's not normal is if you stay in that high level of glucose the whole day and then you wake up also with high levels. That's probably an alarm bell, and you have to go for your blood work. You should test your glucose levels. You should do your A1C, so the average for 3 months, and understand what's going on metabolically with you, but also be realistic about what's going on with you. Are you overweight? Are you stressed? Because that's a big thing. Stress means that you have more cortisol in your blood. Cortisol needs glucose, so otherwise your body can't, function and speed up the heart rate and so on. Are you going properly to the bathroom? Is your digestion okay? All these parts play a big role in how healthy metabolically we are. So we have to consider all these things. The other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to hormones again is something that I just shared this morning, how JAMA and the Lancet, which I'm really upset about because they really do good studies on nutrition, they won't take studies that prove that estrogen HRT is actually good for us. They don't want to go against the results of 25 years ago of the Women Health Initiative. And so we don't know why, because, of course, like HRT, yes, you can do it in a more natural way, but like it's still pharma. And I think it's a lot of pride there to say that they were completely wrong. And what happened in 2002 is that they had, a big media coverage of this without the study even being out yet for the doctors and scientists to look at and peer review. So now in a way it's getting peer reviewed, and it shows that actually estrogen is very beneficial for us, especially when it comes to healthy brain, healthy muscles, healthy bones, and you name it. And the chance of getting breast cancer from it is very, very low. And of course there are some nuisances, as with every conversation. Somebody that might have already cancer, they can't take it right now, but they can take it vaginally. Like that's also very good, and won't go and mess up with the body. Same with progesterone. Like the same conversation with progesterone, they told women that don't have a uterus because they had a hysterectomy that they can't take progesterone, but actually they can, and they can put it vaginally. It helps with not getting dry and have painful sex and so on. So we need to reconsider how we look at these things, and finding practitioners who are OBGYNs and educated is really important. I'm collecting a list of them as well. Also here in Portugal, I'm lucky that I have my OBGYN who's extremely busy, but she is educating herself about this so we can have conversations. When I go to a hospital and I talk to an OBGYN there, I've noticed they have no clue, and they will gaslight you if you say, I'm having these symptoms and I know it's not normal. They will tell you, your aging is normal. It's not normal. Yes, what's normal is that we have decreasing hormones, but like we can do something about it. So we have to have these conversations. So when it comes to studies, unfortunately, even JAMA and Lancets, who are, where you go to for the studies, are really missing the point here. So we have to be wary, and this is why a lot of doctors are probably not educated too, because they will go to these journals and see that the evidence from 25 years ago shows that estrogen is linked to breast cancer. The same studies that talk about soy and breast cancer. I cannot talk about this enough, but no, it's not. And if you follow my friend Dr. Dawn Musalim, she speaks about this. She educates her patients and she educates people about no, estrogen and no, soy will not give you cancer. Okay, off that wagon, please. So we need to have these conversations. It's really, really important. This is what I'm trying to do with the women in my life, that I'm trying to educate. I want you to have the tools. I want you to take everything and then understand it, apply it to your body, see what works and what doesn't, because we are very individual, of course, in many ways. Then go to speak to your doctor and have that conversation, and not just listen to different things. I get so frustrated when people just listen to one person, incomplete information, which is why you will never see me do videos that are less than 15 minutes or 10 minutes, because the conversation is nuanced and we can't just say to one thing. And even in this time that I'm giving you right now, it's not enough. If we wanted to break it down more and more, we have to really have a proper conversation. So, and I've already spoken here about two topics, the glucose and the hormones. So imagine, and with everything is connected, it's holistic. So we have to have really, really mindful approaches to everything we discuss. And only scientists will also understand that things are changing, and also that we have to learn more, and that we could have been wrong. I was wrong about a lot of things before. We are open to change, and we can say it. You know what? The new evidence shows me this, and I'm okay to change my mind. And also understand that we have to acknowledge bias a little bit, okay? So, of course, I'm biased as a vegan, and I want my women to be on plants. But I know that it can be done, and if it can be done without cruelty, without effort, with health in mind, then why wouldn't we, right? Why would we want to induce pain on living beings and also have other things that come from it, like a high-fat diet from animal products? Makes no sense. If you have cancer and you're eating dairy, if you have digestive issues and you're eating dairy and other processed foods too, like, we have to talk, okay? So I hope this is helpful. I want you to ask questions. Ask me anything. If you come across any videos that are contradicting me or are sharing something that you want me to talk about, send them to me. I thrive on your feedback. Bye.